Hi everybody. This is Victor again, and today I'm with Rita again, and we will talk about how is it to live in Portugal as an expat. And me and Rita, we are both expats. We came from Brazil a while ago. Rita has even more experience in moving to other countries, as she did live in the United States for a while. And in this conversation, we will talk about how it is to live in Portugal, some um, questions that we receive related to the topic, and we will try to cover some important topics. And I hope that will be um, give you some kind of idea what it is if you were not in Portugal yet, and if you are, hopefully we'll give you some good tips, some advice for you to handle the relocation in a good way.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go, Rita.
Yes, of course. Yep.
Perfect. So
Happy to
we
be here.
yeah we I have some questions here with me, and I will I will ask them to Rita, and she will give us her point of view, her analysis, and then we will come back to me where we can then move on to the next question. And the first one is related to personal stories in a way. So this is, I think, that's like a
Mhm.
broad question, but feel free to be um, as like specific as you want, Rita.
Sure.
That is, can you share your journey and what inspired you to move to Portugal? Also, what
Okay.
part of Portugal did you choose and why?
Okay. So it was in 2019, so before COVID. Um, my husband and I had been to Portugal before twice. My parents actually worked in Lisbon, so we had been to visit, and we really enjoyed our visits. But we weren't really thinking of moving when we came for vacation. And then in 2019, I think certain family issues, personal issues happened. We weren't very satisfied, honestly, with the quality of life that we were having. Um, and I would say the one of the major reasons is that Portugal is so safe. And I love my country. I love Brazil. Rio is an amazing place. So we lived in Rio, but it's not safe. It's not, unfortunately, it's not safe. You can get mugged. There's still so many things that need to be resolved. Um, and on a day-to-day basis, you always have to be on the lookout, right? You don't know what could happen to you. So I would say the top reason would be safety. Um, I think that there's no value in being able to walk down the street and not worry about somebody coming and snatching your phone or even pointing a gun to your head, because that actually happens in other countries. And um, I think that's priceless. So I would say that's top reason. And it was just something that I have to say wasn't like from day to night. Let's go. It's like it started creeping up on us. We should go. Why not go? It's possible to go, and then let's do it. Let's try to live a different kind of life. And we came, and yes, I would say safety, and then other reasons, weather. It's a sunny place, at least. So okay, so that's why we picked Lisbon. So going on to the second part of the question, um, Lisbon is known as the bright city. I don't know if you know this, and it's bright and it's sunny, and I do need to be somewhere where it is bright. Even in the winter, you have cold days, but there's sun. So safety. And then I picked Lisbon because it's sunny. The winters aren't too harsh. It's very culturally rich. I had been here before, so I would say that it does help when you're in a relocation process. I know this is not possible for everyone, but if it's possible for you to do a scouting trip to this country or to visit beforehand, it really helps you to be confident in your move. And since we had been here before, we we weren't too afraid. We, of course, it's different, like coming on vacation and living, but we kind of knew what to expect. That made the move also easier. So, what about you? What happened with you in
Yeah,
your life?
that's a nice story, Rita. And in my in my case, um, it was kind of similar in a way that when we decided to move to Portugal, it was like the next 2 weeks we were here, so it was very like quick. No time to like really work on the whole move procedure. It was very quick, and that's because I came with my wife, and she was hired to work for a Portuguese company 6 years ago. And I remember that when she applied for the job position, we were not very like confident that it would really happen. Like we
Mm-hmm,
applied for she applied for this position in Portugal. It was like out of our comfort zone. So we were in Brazil. We
mm-hmm,
were not
mm-hmm.
even thinking about moving. And then when the result came out and she was hired, we had like 2 weeks to pack everything and just go.
Wow, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. It's just kind of
yeah.
like, oh, it happened. Let's go.
And
Okay.
I remember that I was working for a company in Brazil, and I had to leave the company. It was really like I was in the middle of a hurricane. I had to deal with everything like so in so short time. And
Had you
yes,
been here before?
no,
Oh,
I've
wow.
never. It was first time in Portugal. I've been in other countries in Europe, but not in Portugal. And the company she worked is located in Braga. So
Mm-hmm.
the good thing is that we did not have to search for the place. It was Braga, so one less thing to decide about. And then we came to Braga, me and Lila. So we just felt in love with the country. I remember that I came here. I was like for the first 2 months, I was doing nothing.
That's
It
nice.
was for the it was good for a while, but it come to a situation where you just want to do anything.
Of
That's
course.
when I decided to enroll to apply for some jobs here in Portugal. I worked in many different areas, but it was in a way it was similar to your situation because it was very quick.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to go to Braga. I just felt in love with the city. It's like I think it's the opposite of Lisbon. It's cold.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
like
It
6 years
rains.
ago.
Yeah.
It rains a lot. 6 years ago, it was a much smaller city, not so many people walking around. Now it's a completely different city. If you go there,
And yeah, I've heard it's one of the cities. I don't know where I saw this, like where you have one of the best quality of life.
yeah, because it is it used to be affordable. So
Mhm.
the accommodation and we can find many options of restaurants. It's still like not so small, but also not so big city. It's like in the
Mhm. Mhm.
middle ground. So, but then I moved to Porto. But in the for the reasons why I moved to Portugal, it was kind of the life just led me here, and but I
Hmm.
felt in love, and then I started to study here. But this first approach, it was kind of related to her moving to Portugal due to her professional situation.
Wow, that's interesting how life does that, right?
Yeah, we are here for this for 6 years and don't plan to move back for the same reasons that you mentioned. The safety,
Hmm.
living here, it's amazing. No, I like the food, I like the people here, so no intention to move back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The food too. I forgot to mention the food. Is good.
And
Yeah.
then we can move on to the next question, that's related to culture shock. I don't know,
Hmm.
in your case, Rita, if you found very like different from Brazil in terms of living in Portugal culturally, and if it was easy for you to adapt to Portuguese way of living.
Um, I would say with any relocation process, there's an adaptation phase. Like you really can't move to a different country and expect not to have some kind of, even if it's a minor issue, you're going to have some kind of, you're going to have things to adapt to, right? It's different surroundings, different weather, usually, well, not always, but different culture. So there were some things I had to get used to, definitely. I remember when we got here, it was August, and we weren't working as well initially. And I remember, um, I think I wanted to go cut my hair, get a haircut, right? So I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to, go get a haircut. And so I walk down the street and I see like a hair salon, and they have a sign at the door and they say, we're on vacation. We're on vacation until September. And I was like, what? The business is on vacation? That's strange. And so I'm like, this place must be strange. So I go to a different neighborhood and we're on vacation. And I'm like, what? And then I started noticing that in August, which is like high peak vacation period in Europe, I think. Um, Lots of businesses go on vacation. And that to me is a culture shock because it's like they really value their downtime and they really value, no, this is my break. So
Yeah,
they value that over, we can't lose profit. No, 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 no. You go on vacation and you take over, but we're not going to close. And here, that's not the case. So I would say that was like the first shock. Like it's very, like in Brazil, you would never, even in high season, everything's open. And in the U.S., I lived in the U.S. for many years. That would never, ever, ever happen. So just a completely different mindset in relation to like work, so that's one thing. Also, as you know, Brazilian Portuguese is different than Portuguese from Portugal. And when I got here, I couldn't understand people on the phone. Um, I
me
couldn't
neither.
understand
Oh
some
my
people at the store. It's just so fast. And the way that the Portuguese from Portugal is pronounced is that they cut off the syllables. It's just a different accent, and if you have to get used to that kind of tone and that singing. Or initially, it was really hard, and I have to say, can you repeat that, please? And I do admit that I would go in some stores sometimes and just speak English,
Really?
which, yeah. So, but now that we've been here for almost 5 years, I can understand everything, everything,
Yeah,
everything, even slang. And
yeah.
um, Tell me about some of the things you experienced. I mean, I have more, but tell me about your.
Yeah, and funny enough, I was thinking about similar things that happened to me. When I mentioned that I started working in some Portuguese companies. First, I worked for a company in the telecommunication business, and I was in the sales team. And I remember that we had like an work hours, we had lunchtime, and when we got to the lunchtime, usually we went to a local restaurant, and then we started eating, talking, like just chit chatting. And I, as a Brazilian, was always looking to my clock. So like we have 1 hour lunchtime. We cannot go
Yeah, that's it.
further than this. But they were so easygoing. They were just laughing. People were just talking, and like they are not. At least it seemed to me that they were not so much. Um, they have another mindset. That's true.
Yeah.
That's what you mentioned. They have another mindset. First, they care
Because,
about their well-being in a way. They don't want that pressure. And I guess Brazilians, they have more similarities with the American way of dealing with work.
especially work. Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say, especially work. It's, I think that the Brazilian way of working is similar to the
Yeah.
US. That's funny. And I've heard like stories from people. Um, and, we're not here to judge and we're not here to say something's better, something's worse, right? That's not the point. It's just different cultures and it's not
Yeah.
right to judge.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
and so we're like I had because I also before I was at Viv I taught English as well to people at companies, and so I had this contact with employees, and I had one Portuguese student who told me, I come into work like 9 and I end up leaving at 7:38. And the reason is because we stopped for coffee and then it was Louisa's birthday. We had cake. And then so there's all these social pauses and
Yeah.
to be able to to get work
True.
done, you're gonna end up like leaving later. And he said that like when he spent 5 months in England, I don't know if he got transferred to a department there. I don't remember exactly the situation. And when he got there, the person who was training him told him, "Listen, your work here is from 9 to 6." And he's like, "Oh, okay." But in his mind, it's like, "No, I'm gonna show that I work really hard and I'm gonna leave at like 7:30 at least, right? I mean, who leaves work at 6?" So he started leaving work at 7:15. By the end of his first week, his supervisor said, "I need to see you in my office." And he's like, "Listen, you need to work from 9 to 6. I want you to leave at 6." So it's so funny. But sorry, I
Yeah.
interrupted you. I
No, no, that's a
remember
very
that.
good point. And also, as another um, thing that I found it's interesting, it's that when you kind of have to understand how people behave socially. And one example is when going to restaurants here. I know that there is, I guess this is an European thing, that you don't just come to the restaurant and go to your table, you sit and you ask your order. You have to wait outside, or
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
in a line, wait for the waiter to show you the table that you are going to sit, and then you sit. And I, like, being Brazilian, I was always going directly to the empty table and just start
Yeah.
ordering food. And here, that's not polite at all.
Yeah.
You have to wait. And also, when you want to ask for the waiter for anything, I remember that, of course, I try to be, even in Brazil, I know that there are some people that are more, let's say, easygoing in a way of how to to ask for like the waiter when they are waiting for something. And but we are more like, I would say, energetic. We can just I know, um, talk to them more in a more like in a kind of friend friendly situation. Here
Yeah.
it's more like you just wait, you sit, you wait, the waiter will go to your table and then you ask for food.
Yes.
There's
Yes. Yes. Yes.
these like rules that are kind of different from Brazil.
And it's more formal than
Yeah.
Brazil, definitely more formal. So sometimes, and this can be embarrassing sometimes because you're not aware of certain things, you act in a certain way that to them
True.
it's going to be, wow, that person's rude. And you didn't mean to be rude. It's just what you know, right? It's your reality, the reality you came from.
Yeah,
And it
even,
can go
oh,
ahead,
sorry,
go ahead.
sorry. No, sorry, I agree with you. Even some small things that, I don't know if there is a kind of different approach in we've compared the north and the south of Portugal for this one, but
Mm-hmm.
using você as
Yeah.
calling people. I know that some people, they think that this is kind of disrespectful when you
Mm-hmm.
and of course, for those that are not understanding, você, like, it's a way to call for other people in Brazil in a very uh, not formal, like it's very friendly way, or like in a daily
A
basis
normal
you call
way.
people.
Yeah.
But here there's kind of another connotation, right? I don't know if it's the same
Yes.
in Lisbon.
No, here I've heard people telling me that você is very formal. Nobody
Oh,
uses
I
this.
see.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
And when you use like we have the tu queres, that's you only use that when you know the person well.
yeah,
And here what they use is something we never use, which is vos, right? Anyway,
yeah,
it's these tiny differences that can make you seem either rude or just out of place, right?
yeah. I mean,
And you have to learn. You have to
yeah.
go through these things.
In the beginning, I was like even afraid of like talking to people, not knowing if I was gonna tell something that they would understand in another context. So I was when I people call me also, I was like, it's two voice. It's
What am I
hard for us
supposed to
to like
say? Yeah,
yeah, to change the switch, and it's funny.
it is. It is.
Okay, so
Um,
moving to the next one, and I would say that for this one I kind of struggled a little bit. That's is a social integration. So
mhm.
if I mean, if you found some strategies or activities that you found that was good to be with the local community here in Portugal, if you made friends here, how was your integration with Portugal society?
So we were kind of lucky because um, my husband Diego, he had a friend who had lived in Rio, who was Portuguese from Lisbon. So he knew this friend when he was a teenager, and he lived. And this friend of his, João, lived many years in Rio, and then he came back to Lisbon for college. So when we came here, we contacted him, and that was lucky because we had that he had that past, and so then we met. He like saw him again, and I met his wife, and we became very good friends. But if I'm going to be very honest, I think it's hard to make friendships here. Um, Harder than in Brazil. I think people, and this is funny because this is part of the reason why Portugal is also a nice place, but it's hard to make friends sometimes, and I think it's because the Portuguese are they're polite, and they're like gentle people, they're calm people, but they're not very extroverted or open, right? So it's very hard to break through that, small talk, and actually,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I only think I made Portuguese friends because we had this person he knew in the past. And then what happened was I worked in many places where I think that if you work in places where you have with Portuguese, you can make friends.
Yeah.
If you, in my case, I worked with many people from many different parts of the world, even before Viv. So um, it was hard to make Portuguese friends, but I did make friends with like a Portuguese teacher. I think that, and if you're not working, I would say to make friends, it's a good idea to see what activities are going on in your neighborhood, right? There are like neighborhood centers. They're called Junta da Freguesia, right? The
Yes.
neighborhood centers. What's happening? What I'm saying is, you need to make an effort or you're not going
Yeah.
to make friends.
True. And when I mentioned that I kind of struggled here, it was due to a very similar um, way of uh, see how Portuguese people they they deal with friendship. I agree with you that it's it's easy to establish a first contact and to kind of have this small talk and get to know them, but to turn into friendship, I, I I think that in Brazil it was easier for me. I don't know, maybe
Yes.
that's something cultural, but for me, I'm not extroverted person. I'm kind of shy, so it's hard to get to know other people you when you're shy. My wife,
Mm-hmm.
she's like the opposite. Like if it wasn't for her, probably it would we would have just a few friends, and mostly related to work. But when she worked in that place, when we came to Portugal, she made some good friends there that are still we still are
Mm-hmm.
in touch with them. Also, I did study here for my master's degree, and I've made some few but good friends, but they're Brazilian, so I guess it doesn't count. But I, I have the same impression that they are welcoming. The people, they will talk back to you. There, at least in my experience, it was easy to get to know people, but to turn into friendship, then I don't know.
It's
It
hard.
it's
They're
hard.
they're they're more reserved. Like, and there's this big thing with family.
Yeah,
Like, once they like reach this age where they have their own family and they have kids, it's like they stick around only with their units. And it's funny because like in Brazil it's common to go to people's houses, like,
yeah,
oh, come have dinner at my house, or we're having a barbecue, we're
yeah.
having this. That is not
No,
here. That's not common at all
not at
to
all.
go to
Not
people's.
at all.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Certainly. And funny enough, I was, it's hard to make good friends here. But if you are someone who like have this friendly approach and you're positive, it's not that I think that's not that hard because I was speaking to one of our clients this week, and like he's the most like like active and funny person that I've met here in Portugal, and he's from Canada. And I was talking to him and how hard can it be to make friends here, and he was just laughing about it because he made friends with everybody, with
Yeah.
a person from a restaurant that we went, from like his neighbors, and like he made friends with like almost the entire Porto, so yeah, it also depends on how willing and how much effort you put into make new friends.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
I
but
agree. I
overall, I
agree.
think it's a little. I agree with you. That's not as straightforward as making friends in Brazil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just they're more reserved. They're more to
Yeah,
themselves. So you've
exactly.
got to really, yeah.
But for these friends that Lila made in her past job, we are still friends. She's not working there for a while. So when you make friends, you make good friends. It's hard
Yeah.
to get to that stage, but seems that after that, it's like real, really, real friendship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Once you do make friends, they're
Yeah.